Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Dr. Pierce,
Hello, Dr.
Dr.
Davis,
Jeff,
Dr.
the
Nikki.
amazing.
How's everybody doing today?
All right, thank you guys for joining us. This is another episode of Dr. Davis and Dr. Pierce answering your questions. We're doing a live Q&A today. So let us know where you're watching from. I know we are out on a lot of different platforms, so you might be watching from YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, but we'd love to hear where you are located. And yeah, we're both kind of west. I'm in Utah and you're in California, but we might have people from other countries where it's late at night right now. You never know. North Carolina, lovely. Connecticut, great. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Pierce, for joining me again for our wonderful Q&A sessions.
It's my pleasure.
All
Always
right.
a fun.
Yeah, these are fun. This is I like this because it's people can submit questions ahead of time. But if you're just watching and you have a question that you want us to answer that's not a specific medical question, but more of a general medical question or something to do with lifestyle changes or a plant-based diet, you can answer, we can answer any of those types of questions. We just can't be really specific. So please don't give us your personal health information. If you have specific questions, then of course we'd be happy to see you. We have doctors that cover almost all 50 states and international. So if you need a lifestyle medicine physician, just check us out at lifestyletelemedicine.com.
Right on.
All right. So I guess, Dr. Pierce, before we get started on any of the questions, how are you doing today?
Fine, thank you. It's August is a big harvest month in our neck of the woods. So folks with big fruit trees are like, hey, do you want some pears? Do you want some apples? Do you want some plums? And so every day, even not counting what we're getting from our own garden, every day I'm just processing stuff from other folks who had extra, and it's really nice because we're eating fresh. Like I got like a tote of pears. They're just delicious, buttery smooth. We're eating as many as we can. We're freezing them, and we're knocking on neighbors' doors and seeing if they would like some pears. And so it's such a wonderful season. Feels like we're giving and we're receiving, and life's good.
I wish I was your neighbor. I would love to get some of that
Would
wonderful.
love to share. Yeah.
And I think I saw that you have dates, right? You must have some date trees.
Not dates.
Oh,
Plums.
or figs. I'm thinking of figs.
Figs. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I love
Figs.
figs, fresh figs.
Fresh figs. They're hard to come by because they just they don't last once you pick them, and that's why they're almost always dried in the store. But figs kind of give two seasons. Many figs will give like a maybe a lighter early summer or spring crop, and then usually the big crop is in the fall. And so we've got a bunch on the trees, and hopefully around depending on the trees, September, October into November, we'll be having some fresh figs.
All right, so I know when to come visit.
Yes. Doors always open. But I bet you so figs, they grow well in containers. So even folks in places where it gets real cold can keep a fig and just put them in a garage over the winter and then take them back out. So you could have
That's a good idea. I have heard that in Salt Lake City, where I live, there are a few fig trees that have to be covered, in the winter, but that they can do okay. You just have to take good care of them. But I love that idea of having it in a container and then moving it somewhere warm during the winter.
What I hear, I don't grow it, but I've heard in folks in colder climes will grow Chicago Hardy is the type of fig that one of them that tends to be pretty decent at taking the cold weather. And one gentleman up in the Northeast cuts his pretty much down to the ground, so he can just mulch over it with some hay or some wood chips and stuff, and then it comes back year after year, and gives fruit on the new growth.
Wow.
Anyway, a fan of figs. If you can grow them, give it a shot.
Yeah. And thank you for the comment that someone left about calcium being a good source of calcium.
Well, that's great. Yeah, actually, I didn't know that. I just ate them because they taste good. So thank you,
know,
Jerry.
they're delicious.
I appreciate that. That's great to know.
All right, well, let's get into the questions. So first of all, we have Christine Johnston who says, what are the best tests for pancreatic function besides fasting glucose and A1C?
Oof.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll start. When I think of pancreatic function, I'm thinking, sometimes I will check some labs in people who I am concerned that they might not have the best beta cell, um, function, basically. Beta cells are what produce insulin. And so if you have someone who is diabetic, but maybe they're requiring some insulin, maybe they're a little bit thin, sometimes we think, oh, is there something going on in the pancreas, like an autoimmune condition that could be destroying the beta cells? And is that why you're not producing enough insulin? And so I will often check a C-peptide. And that is, I typically will check that fasting. And that is something that can help us get a little bit of an idea as to whether or not we might be dealing with that is how we diagnose type 1 diabetes. And so if we're worried that there might be something going on like a latent autoimmune diabetes of adulthood, then, often that's what I'll check as a fasting C-peptide. What about you, Dr. Pierce? Anything else?
Yeah, the pancreas is a fascinating organ, and it has two main functions. This is a review for everybody. The function that we're usually thinking about in this area in lifestyle medicine is usually how it's related to diabetes, is the secretion of insulin, to help us take sugar, glucose from our blood and put it into our cells in our body, predominantly into our skeletal muscle cells, and uptake in the liver. And that is the endocrine function of the pancreas. And so it's funny that we usually, as far as endocrine function of the pancreas, we're usually doing a roundabout test by seeing, what's your blood sugar, what's your hemoglobin A1C, which is the 3-month average of your blood sugar. I would say we rarely test insulin, though you can, like a fasting insulin level and whatnot. But the most routine way to approach it is by just checking to see what our blood sugar is, and then sometimes to see if we're dealing with somebody with type 1 diabetes or type 1.5, which is sort of an autoimmune adult onset. So it's sort of like type 1 diabetes in adulthood, but not quite, doing those tests with like C-peptide and different antibodies, as Niki was talking some about. And then the other part of the pancreatic world, there is the exocrine function. And that's the ability from different cells to within the pancreas to break down fats in our diet. So we eat something and it secretes something that helps to emulsify some components in our diet. And we rarely check that function, though you can. There's different tests, usually that a gastroenterologist will order, to see if your pancreatic exocrine function isn't working well. And that's usually in folks who have had severe and multiple bouts of pancreatitis, an inflammation of the pancreas, where you've released some of these digestive juices from the pancreas and it's sort of digesting itself. And then you have not much of a functional pancreas left. And the main symptom with that, after having these bouts of pancreatitis, is when you eat anything, you see sort of fatty bowel movements, so undigested fats and stuff like that in your bowel movements, and so usually at that point you're talking to a gastroenterologist who's going to help you go down that path. Would you say that's a fair assessment, Dr. Davis?
Yep. Yeah, so that's something that, we'll check a lot. Like when I was rotating through the ER during training, we're checking a lipase level in people that we're worried might have pancreatitis. So that would be like that exocrine hormone that you're talking about. And I didn't mention this, but the C-peptide, people might be wondering, well, what is that? So it's a protein that's just attached to insulin. So as your pancreas is making insulin, that C-peptide is attached. And so that's what we're measuring. So it in a roundabout way is checking your ability to make enough insulin from your pancreas. And then a follow-up question from Sunny: what is a good number for fasting blood glucose? So that's one thing to be aware of, is that whenever you check, like in your annual labs with your doctor, often they will check either a basic metabolic panel or a comprehensive metabolic panel, and that includes glucose. So if you're fasting, you can see what your fasting blood sugar is. And I think that the normal value now is below 99. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think of that 100 to 125 being in the range of pre-diabetes, and 126 above being the range of diabetes. So shooting for less than 100 in pregnancy, where we really want to get that number dialed in. We're shooting for fastings below 90 to 95. But yeah, for most folks outside of that, I'm thinking, yeah, less than 100 is a pretty good number to be shooting for. And it's amazing, some people, when you're living with diabetes that is not yet controlled, and maybe you got a recent diagnosis, and some folks are like, man, I'm so excited. I got my fastings down to the low 200s, and it's all about progress, right? And so some folks are living with fastings in the 250, 300 range. And our job is to help you get those down as quickly as possible to the normal range, less than 100.
Yeah. All right. All right. And then, hey, Cheryl. I know Cheryl. Cheryl Show. So, what about dental X-rays and fluoride treatments? Helpful or damaging? What do you think?
It's an interesting question. So I'm a big fan of preventive medicine and preventive dentistry, and all you have to do is work a little bit of time in the medical system and see folks who've not had access to. I mean, it's a complicated situation, but some folks who've not had access to preventive dental stuff, and suffering later in life as you have fewer and fewer teeth, and so prevention is key in medicine, and that includes dentistry as well. X-rays, when I'm not a dentist or an orthodontist, but X-rays are a great way to look for cavities and other problems such as crowding, etc. I have a question that's not an answered question, but it's very standard of care to get X-rays quite frequently in the dental world. I'm not sure that there is strong evidence to suggest the perfect frequency of checking X-rays. And I know a lot of folks who don't have the world's best dental coverage. And my experience personally in our family is that dental coverage tends to be quite meager, even when you're paying for dental insurance, that you're still having to pay extra for A, B, and C. And so I would love there to be better studies that shows that really is an X-ray once a year necessary? Is it just as good as an X-ray every other year? There's things like when we're looking at mammography, breast mammography, there's lots of studies behind that, and there's been lots of changes about how often we recommend women, what age should you be doing it, and how often should you be doing it. And I just don't think that there's that same scrutiny with X-rays in the dental profession. So sometimes my dentist says, hey, you got to have an X-ray. It's been, just 6 months or 12 months. And I say, I haven't had a cavity in years. My teeth are great. I'd love to push this off for a year, but it's very personal, right? If you've been having tons of problems with your teeth, it might be more beneficial for you to be screening more often. That's my thought on that. How about you, Niki?
Yeah, I think, first of all, talking about, is this screening or is this diagnostic? So if you're having issues and you're having tooth pain, you're concerned about something, and then it makes more sense to get the imaging to find out what's going on. But if it's just for screening purposes, then I agree with you. I think it's going to be different for everyone. If you are in generally good health, your health is good, you're taking good care of your teeth, you're brushing your teeth, you're flossing, you're eating a healthy diet that doesn't have a lot of saturated fat and cholesterol in it, and you're not getting that plaque buildup as much as other people might be. If you're drinking water instead of sugar sweetened beverages, staying away from the processed foods, then chances are your teeth are in better health than others who are not doing those things. And so you might be someone who could get away with not doing X-rays as regularly as other people. So I think it does depend on the person. And if you have questions about if that's what you should do personally, then that's where you can meet with one of us and we can really talk through that. And then we can actually look at the data that is available on getting screening X-rays in dentistry and see what the recommendations are and what those are based on. All right, and then she's wondering about fluoride treatments. Do you have any recommendations on that, Dr. Pierce?
This is a highly contested topic in whether or not fluoride is perhaps one of the best preventive public health measures that's been done for children's teeth, or whether it's poisoning us.
Do you have fluoride in your water, Dr. Pierce?
We do. This water that I was just drinking, our city does put fluoride in the water, if I remember correctly. And I don't have a super strong opinion about it, other than I think that fluoride in general has been beneficial. It is rare that there has been any sort of fluoride excessive exposures and whatnot. I believe that fluoride has been overall beneficial. Yes. What do you think about that, Dr. Davis?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm not one side or the other. I'm not, adamantly against it, but I'm not also like, oh, you definitely have to do it. And this might be a personal decision for you and your family as to whether or not you want to get fluoride treatments when you go to the dentist, if you want to have fluoride in your toothpaste, if you want to drink the water, that has fluoride in it from your city. So I do think this is kind of more of a personal question, and just looking at the data and deciding, and this goes for a lot of things in medicine that are kind of controversial, is really looking at the evidence that we do have and then deciding for yourself the benefits versus the risks of whatever it is that you're going to be using. So I personally do fluoride treatments, like for my kiddo. I might change my mind in a couple of years, who knows? But for now, I think it's a good idea. All right, and then we have Tasha. Hello, what would cause my EGFR number to go from 77 to 60 in 5 days? Okay, so for people who don't know, the EGFR is a measure of kidney function. And so it just basically, as the number gets lower, that just means that your kidneys aren't functioning quite as well. So 77 to 60 in 5 days, first thing I think about is, retesting to see, is this possibly just kind of a fluke, and we test again and it's 70, 75 again. Could it have to do with hydration status as well? If you're really dehydrated, maybe your number might go down a little bit. I don't know, what else would you think of, Dr. Pierce?
So just as a reminder, typically the glomerular filtration rate estimated, which is the EGFR, is a measure of how well our kidneys are functioning, and we want that over 100. Already being in the 70s is a degree of chronic kidney damage, if that's where someone's filtration is living. And so it's very, very important to be aware of that and to be talking to your primary doc about it. It depends on if things change quite quickly when we're talking about acute kidney damage or acute kidney injury. And so when we're seeing folks in the hospital, right, we're checking a GFR every day, and you can see it get worse day by day. If there's been, say, you were super dehydrated and then you took too much ibuprofen, and you were also on a antibiotic that can hurt the kidney, and it's a perfect storm, for example. That's one way where you would see that number dropping. There is a certain amount of lab error in every test, right? And so if you checked your GFR 24 times in a 24-hour period, you would get a different number each time within a certain range, right? 77 to 60 is a pretty big jump. It seems like it's a little bit more out of the norm that I would expect. I'd expect more a range of about 5 or so. And so, yeah. So when I see when I have a patient whose number drops from 77 to 60, then I'm seeing them in my office. I'm having a detailed conversation about what medicines you're on, hydration status, recent infections, and following that very closely, because you want to see if that was a fluke, or if it's continuing to go down.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Any new medications, because medications can certainly cause you to have a little bump in your kidney function, or bump down, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, I know labs are all different in what their normal values are. I'm more familiar with, and I might be thinking of something different, but usually an eGFR greater than 60 is how they usually will say, is it greater than 60 or less than? And then if it's less than 60, then they give you an actual number. So I would be curious to know, what, like, if we just look up what the normal value is, because 100, I am familiar with that, but I don't know if 60, greater than 60, would be considered in the normal range.
It's always quite interesting to me, because that's what the labs report. But between like 60 and 90 is stage 1 chronic kidney disease, from what I remember, and that is I would like my patients to know if they're hovering at 65, because that's different
Right.
than 90 or 95 or 100.
Absolutely.
But what the labs usually are reporting is less than 60. And at that point, you're getting into stage 2 of chronic kidney disease already. And so, but that classification of CKD moves around a little bit. But I'm just drawing it up from the National Kidney Foundation right now to make sure that we're giving the most accurate numbers. Have you found differently, Nikki? It looks like stage
No.
1, not 90 or above, stage 2 from 60 to 89, stage 3A 45 to 59. And so having a value in that 60 to 89 is already considered kidney damage with mild loss of kidney function. But yeah, so definitely with those numbers, especially the bump down to lower, be talking to your doctor. That was a bit of a specific question, and just as a reminder, we're not giving specific individual medical advice. This what we would like this answer to be is pretty much a general answer to what do you do when you see a change in kidney function, and what does that mean? Just circling back to the previous question, I was curious to see if what our fluoride level is in my hometown, and it looks like they are not adding any fluoride to the water currently. So for all you folks in Santa Rosa, sorry for the misspeak there.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Jerry is asking, what are some natural alternatives to shrink or dissolve simple, benign liver and kidney cysts? Boy, I don't know. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
No, that is not something that has come up with any of my patients. I am not aware of ways to deal with cysts now in the kidney or the liver. Kidney cysts, especially when there's just one or two and they're called simple and benign, like what Jerry has mentions there, are quite common. And you see them come up a lot when you're ordering imaging in somebody, right? You've done an ultrasound because you had a specific concern about something, and then just kind of incidentally or accidentally, the doc says, hey, you know, while we were looking for your gallbladder, we saw a cyst in your liver or your kidney. These benign cysts yeah, they're common, and you just generally don't do anything about them. If you see a kidney that is full of cysts, that is usually associated with a genetic disorder, or a liver that's full of cysts. You know, that's a different question. If you have one or two, they won't bother you. You don't need to bother them, and everybody gets along well. Yeah, so that's kind of my understanding of them.
Yep, I agree with that. Yeah, if you've just got one or two here and there that aren't causing you any issues, then no reason to concern yourself. Besides, you probably have a physician who's watching that and saying, hey, maybe we should just do another, maybe do an ultrasound in a few years. Or, I mean, there might be some recommendations on just checking to make sure that they're not getting larger or causing any issues. But in general, if it's not excessive, like a genetic issue, then usually it won't cause a problem. But best to follow up with your doctor on that. Oh, Dr. Kim Scheuer. How do you stay sane in an insane world? Boy, that is the question of the day. That is the question of the day. I hang out with my dogs.
Yeah. Are they
You live
there?
in the
Are they
moment.
are they gonna make a
Yeah,
cameo?
I don't think so. They're kind of naughty little dogs. They like
Um,
to bark when they don't bark at all unless I'm on a live stream. Then they decide that they want to bark like crazy. So they're back in the back room taking a nap.
okay.
But that's what I do personally. I just try to live in the moment, get out in nature and just enjoy life, enjoy living, hanging out with my son, hanging out with my dogs. Just that's kind of what I do. And then I don't watch the news. I get my news word of mouth. So if
Mm.
something's important enough, I'll hear about it from my mom.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel much the same way. I think we wanna worry and act on the things that we can change. But I think a common source of angst is being flooded for multiple hours of the day with bad news from around the world, and then sort of if you're not doing something about it, it leads to this existential crisis and grief. And I'm not. And I certainly don't have the answer to live in a state of bliss and nirvana. But I think that has helped me is to really limit my exposure to news, but to still, do my duty as a citizen when it comes to voting and paying attention to the most important things. I get a lot of satisfaction from being outside. If it's been too long since I've gone for a jog, I get jittery, and I know who was talking about this recently? Ted Barnett from the Dr. Ted Barnett from the Rochester Lifestyle Medicine Institute said he gets the jitters, and his wife says, isn't it time for you to go for a run? And then he goes for a run, he comes back, and the whole family's happy again. And so that I totally connected when I heard him say that. I get a lot of help from being out in the garden, seeing things grow and harvest, and being reminded about, that the grand scheme of things, uh, tomatoes still grow and birds still chirp and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, find what it is for you, and take time every day. It's one of the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, which is handling chronic stress. And so if we don't take any time for ourselves, it's just going to be filled with something else that causes the stress. Don't you think, Nikki?
Yeah, yeah. And I love that what you said about Dr. Barnett, that his runs are not only good for him, but his family.
Yeah.
When I get jittery, that kind of jittery feeling, it's pickleball.
Oh,
Pickleball for me. Have you
so,
played
some
yet?
Well, the first time I played since a kid, being a kid, I played with Anthony Masiello, our fellow lifestyle telemedicine guy, leader and chief, and he sort of wiped the floor up with me, and so I'm a little sore about that. So we're gonna have to try it again.
All right. Well, you might need a little bit of practice. That's what it takes. You just got to
Okay,
practice, you know?
maybe
I'm
I'll
sure there's plenty of
about to
pickleball
Utah.
courts near you.
There,
You've got like the best weather of the country. Like you should be out playing pickleball every day. It's 75 and gorgeous.
that's a good point. Okay, I gotta go.
All right. Let's see. We got a phone call. What can be done about elevated uric acid levels? What do you think?
That's awesome. I have this image that it's like the phone call just came in. There's like
Yeah.
there's like 12 people at the, waiting for over their individual phone in front of them.
We're
Um,
that important.
yeah,
Yeah, we've got a team answering
thank you,
phones.
Christy, for manning the phones. What can be done about elevated uric acid levels? Yeah. So, who you want to start on this one? You want me to start?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Uric acid is a natural acid that we produce as part of metabolism in our body, and um, we pass that out in the urine. We don't want to hold on to it. Too much uric acid is a bad thing, and the main reason we think about uric acid and why too much of it's a bad thing is we're thinking about something called gout, and if you might have someone watching this might have had a bout of gout, or known someone who has, and it's one of the most painful things. Maybe the closest that men get to the pain of childbirth is when you get a gout flare. The crystals, uric acid crystals, sort of form in the blood and will deposit in a joint, classically in the great toe and the big toe. Oh, Susan passed that call on. Thank you,
Yep.
Susan.
Thank you,
And
Susan.
the big toe gets warm and red, and you don't want to put any pressure on it or even let a sheet rest on it. And it's excruciating. And gout is there are many reasons why some folks have gout. Some of it is highly dietary, some of it is highly genetic, and it seems like it's often a combination of the two. And the main way we approach it is to switch over to a plant-based diet, as close to 100% plant-based diet as you can if you are not already, as well as cutting back or eliminating alcohol. And then there are a couple of foods that might help, like tart cherries and tart cherry juice. And if you are having gout flares, as someone who's already plant-based, making sure you're avoiding some of these processed vegan foods that can be higher in fructose and that can cause some of the same problems. But classically, it's the big heavy meal with alcohol and red meat, and then that night you have a gout flare. And so there are medications for this that your doc can put you on to help lower the uric acid levels, but it's so nice to not be on medications when you can avoid it and eat a diet that not only will help prevent you from having gout flares, but at the same time, decrease your risk for diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, and certain cancers.
Love it. Love it. Yes. I mean, when I think of gout, you think of the kings and queens and how
Mm.
they got the very lavish food and, greasy, you know, decadent foods versus peasant foods that are more, potatoes and rice and vegetables. And it was the kings and queens that were getting gout and not the peasants that were getting the gout. And so I have had several occasions where I've had patients come to me with uh, chronic gout, where they get flare-ups on occasion and have to take medications either to prevent or to treat in the moment, or both. And had a lot of success with having people switch to a low-fat plant-based diet and have that really help to where I have had people be able to get off those medications and not have future flare-ups. So it is definitely possible to use diet and lifestyle changes to help with that for some people. Yeah, great question. Okay, I think it's me Melody. What are the biggest misconceptions about plant-based diets you'd like to clear up? Okay, I'll go. That they're boring, that you must not like food if you're going to be eating plant-based, that, it doesn't taste good, that it's expensive, that it's difficult. Those are all misconceptions. I love food and I love eating plant-based, and I don't feel like I'm missing out. And I eat a lot of inexpensive foods because, like we were just talking about, the foods that are really good for you are the whole plant foods. They aren't the processed foods that you can find in a box. It's what you can, dig out of the garden or pick off of a tree. So those are a lot less expensive, and it doesn't need to be complicated. You don't need crazy recipes. You can really literally just, so often I'm having rice and cauliflower. It doesn't have to be something that is difficult, that you have to spend hours in the kitchen. And you don't really even have to be a cook, honestly. You can make things really simple and make it work for you. What about you? Any additional?
Man, all those are key. I would say also, maybe I get it more as a guy, but they're like, oh, you eat like this, you're just going to be this little skinny little weakling. I don't even know if you're going to be able to get out of bed. You're going to, have trouble taking the stairs. You're not going to have any, libido and testosterone and all this kind of stuff. It's just silly, right? You see all you have to do, throw in a search engine, vegan bodybuilder or plant-based bodybuilder, and you can look at all these folks out there. One of the strongest guys in the world, Patrick Babomian, he's like lifting cars, for fun and stuff like that. There are all these just super strong folks, men and women, who are getting all the protein that they need and are just crushing it in the gym. The sort of sexual dysfunction thing that, a big meat eater's like, I don't want to eat vegan, and it helps with eating a whole food plant-based diet will cut your risk for erectile dysfunction as a guy, which is it's another clogged artery problem, just like, the heart diseases. They call that the canary in the coal mine. If you have erectile
early
dysfunction,
indicator.
we have heart arteries being clogged as well. So I think the manly, quote unquote, nature of eating meat versus not. And so wouldn't let that stop any dude, for example.
Yeah. Well, there's a great documentary called Game Changers that's kind of along that line, and then there's a podcast called Real Men Eat Plants. So there are men out there that are talking about this, because it is, you hear about where it's almost like bullying. Like, you're just going to be weak and you're not going to get enough protein. You're not going to have muscles. You're not a real man if you only eat plants and you don't eat meat and hunt. But you're not constipated. You don't have erectile dysfunction. You're living a long, healthy life. You're not dying of a heart attack at 50. Like, eating a plant-based diet is so good for you, and we just got to get rid of that bias that there is towards men eating plants. All right. Okay, another question. Let's see here. Diana says, asking for a 79-year-old family member, do you have a recommended amount of protein for a 20-plus year bariatric surgery person to have while eating a whole food plant-based diet? My family member keeps insisting on 130 grams. So I, in general, follow the World Health Organization's recommendation, which is 0.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. Which
0.8, right?
Oh, is it 0.8? Yeah.
0.8.
Well, that might be the CDC.
Okay.
But there are some different expert organizations, but it's in that range, 0.6 to 0.8 grams per kilogram. Maybe it's a little higher if you're, an endurance athlete, or maybe if you're a little bit older. but 130 grams to me, I mean, it depends on how much this person weighs. But 130 is probably way more than they need. And it's typically, if you understand this, Dr. Pierce, but I think it's kilogram of ideal body weight. Okay. So yeah, so you can do that calculation. You can look at the World Health Organization recommendation and the CDC recommendation, and then look at the weight of the person, and then do your own calculation on that.
Yeah. There's we need enough protein to help, make muscles and have strength to do what we need to do. But we pretty much, as a population in the United States, something like 95% of us or 99, sorry, close to 100% are getting all the protein they need. But none of us have seen cases of protein malnutrition in America, unless, you've got some rare condition. Shooting for that, folks who are in their 70s and 80s, maybe it's more like a gram per kilogram per day. But if you're eating, 2 grams per kilogram per day, a lot of it is going in the toilet, and some of it is being converted into fat, and it's just a waste of money. And the most important thing for strength is to make sure that you're doing a resistance program, to where you're working on your strength and eating adequate protein. But adequate protein for someone in their 70s and 80s is not 2 grams per day. 2 grams per kilogram per day, or more. Christopher Gardner is such a great source for just quality information on protein levels. And so if you look up his interviews, which you can find all over the place, but he's got good ones with Rich Roll and many others. He's out of Stanford, and he is just one of the world's top experts on dietary protein needs. And he says about the same stuff that we're quoting right now.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing to think about too is that you mentioned your kidneys. One of the kidneys' jobs is to keep protein in the body. Protein really shouldn't be going through the kidneys. And when we do see that happening, we worry about there being some kidney issues and kidney dysfunction. So we check protein in the urine in people who have type 2 diabetes to see how their kidneys are functioning. And if they're letting out protein, then that's a concern. So when you're taking in a lot of protein, extra protein than what your body really needs, your kidneys have to deal with that excess load to try to filter and make sure that they're not allowing that protein out through the kidneys. So you definitely don't want to shoot over what you need. And those recommendations, by the way, are really making sure that almost everyone gets plenty of protein. But there's a U-shaped curve, and so a lot of us probably need even less than what is recommended, that 0.6 to 0.8 grams per kilogram. So if you're really shooting for way more than that, and just like you said, if you're trying to build muscle or maintain muscle mass, it's really about using the muscles, and they've done studies on this, looking at that. Does it really make a big difference to add, say, a protein shake or a protein powder? And it really doesn't. It's really more how you use your muscles and making sure that you're continuing to use those muscles. All right. X-tine. Okay. I don't know what that means, but we've got somebody asking thoughts on fasting versus non-fasting for lipid panels. Have heard that non-fasting is now becoming preferred. I tend to be someone who says fasting. Because I've asked people to do fasting for so long, it's kind of comparing apples to apples as we're checking over time. I don't know. What do you do, Dr. Pierce?
Christy says this is Christine. Is the
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
Get it now.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I think the benefit of asking for fasting is oftentimes people are checking other labs at the same time and including like a fasting blood glucose. And so it's in some ways it's just easy to come in fasting to get all the labs that you need fasting at once. The benefit of going non-fasting is, and I heard Kim Williams, who's one of the past presidents of American Cardiology College, I believe, American College of Cardiology, who said, he likes folks to come in non-fasting because you see what happens to their triglycerides and you get a real idea of what they're eating. Because if you're eating, a less healthy diet, you're going to see more of a bump in your triglycerides, which is the component of the cholesterol panel that changes the most when you're non-fasting. That your LDL and your total cholesterol doesn't change all that much in comparison, is my understanding of it. Because of the fasting blood glucose, when we're getting a blood lab check, I'm usually asking patients to go fasting. But if a patient wants to go non-fasting, I think that's fine. To me, it is not making a huge difference either way, because I still get a pretty darn good idea of what your cholesterol levels are, whether you're fasting or not.
Yeah, agreed.
I'll say one other thing, I suppose, is that some folks who run particularly high triglycerides, when they get for many lab tests, if you're greater than a triglyceride of about 500, 4 to 500, depending on the test, they cannot calculate the LDL, which is the most common form of the most important cholesterol component to follow. That's the bad cholesterol or the lethal cholesterol. And so if you go in non-fasting and your triglycerides were 550, it's not going to be able to calculate a LDL, and then you have to go back for another test, either fasting or a directly measured LDL, and it just gets more complicated. So if I know somebody who runs high triglycerides, I'll try to get them to go in fasting to increase their chance that it can calculate the LDL.
Yeah, really good point. Thank you. All right. Someone is asking, do you believe that medical doctors in general are becoming more aware of the benefits of a whole food plant-based diet? Well, I will say we've definitely seen an increase in the amount of providers who are becoming board certified in lifestyle medicine. So that in and of itself, I think, tells us, there's just more interest in the medical community. So I do think that definitely there are more of us that are becoming aware. But we're still a very small, we're still a minority in the medical world, and I still have patients coming to me being told by their doctors that they shouldn't continue a plant-based diet, that it's unhealthy for them, that they should be adding back in meat or dairy. So that's still, unfortunately, something that we're dealing with. Anything else?
I was just looking up how many docs are boarded in lifestyle medicine, and as of a year ago, there's over 3,000 doctors that have sat for the board exam in lifestyle medicine, and that's pretty impressive for something that wasn't even around when not all that long ago. Unfortunately, there are about 1 million practicing doctors in America, was the number that I just saw online, and so there's still quite a ways to go, but yeah, even folks who are not boarded in the field of lifestyle medicine are hearing more about the health benefits of whole food plant-based diet. Some of it is through the efforts of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. Some of it's through the even American College of Family Physicians and Pediatrics, and you see it throughout many specialties who are telling their members to try to get folks on a whole food plant-based diet. I loved hearing, the cardiologists are catching on, which they should, because it's so important for the heart. You're seeing the American College of the American whatever the endocrine society is, the diabetic docs, subspecialists who are talking more about the reversibility of diabetes, and one avenue is through whole food plant-based diets that are naturally low in calories. The kidney docs who are recommending to get away from animal protein because of what it does to our kidney function, and on and on. And so I believe, yes, it's catching on. There's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and of course I talk about, the situations in which we're not getting the support from the medical community, but then you hear the other stories too, where, uh, I'll have patients saying, oh, the reason I started this was because my cardiologist or, my endocrinologist mentioned that a plant-based diet might help me treat or reverse my disease. And this might not even be someone who is lifestyle medicine certified. They've just started doing their own research. So I am seeing that as well, that, people will tell me, oh, I had this doctor that just mentioned it to me. And it's someone, I haven't heard of in this community. And yeah, so I think it's gaining traction, and, we're going to keep along with that flow and keep moving forward with it. Okay, I think we probably have enough time for maybe one or two more questions. Oh, all right, this is a good one. Joni's asking, what do you think about oils? What do you think? What do you think, Dr. Pierce? Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, well, most cars require them, but electric cars don't. So if you get an electric car,
Oh,
you don't have to do oil changes. It's very nice. So oils in the diet is also a contested topic. And I think there is I think this is one of those where 10 years from now we'll have more information on it. I would say, okay, so let's say what we know. There are so oils is a highly processed food. It is, when we're thinking about plant oils like olive oil and avocado oil, you extract the oil from the plant. You don't bring a lot of the nutrients along with it. You don't bring the fiber with it. And so a lot of folks say, eat olives and eat avocados, and you'll get all those great oils, but in a more natural form where the fiber, et cetera, is just giving you added benefit on top of baseline benefit. Classically, some of the folks in the cardiology plant-based world, like Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, who did his work pretty much exclusively by asking his very sick cardiac patients to take all oil out of their diet, and saw amazing success with that. And so many of us plant-based docs would say, hey, if you have known cardiac disease, known heart disease, clogged arteries, et cetera, probably the no oil way is the best to go. I personally, with my patients who are not cardiac patients, I talk to them about the benefits of a low to no oil diet. But if they want to put some oil in their food, I say keep it minimal. Try a spray oil so you can use very little, or a splash of olive oil towards the end of cooking or when it's on your plate, so that it's not, reaching its smoke point and converting during the cooking process. If you have if you're at your ideal body weight, and you're not concerned about losing weight, I'm less worried about the oils, because certainly since oils are so concentrated in calories, that's a big reason why folks have trouble losing weight if that's what they're working on. So yes, I would say, and then in our own household, oftentimes we're cooking without oil, but if we do cook with oil, it's just a very small amount, and that's just how I think the science is decent, that you don't want to be putting it in your coffee, like the craze of how a shot of oil every day is just gonna make you run a marathon better or something like that. I think that's too much in one direction. I think personally that if you for the folks who say nobody on this planet should ever have a drop of oil, I think is also a bit extreme. We have to look at every person individually and see where they are in their health journey, and that's how I look at it.
Yeah, and I think, in general, we are getting oils in our diet if we're eating plant foods, because all plant foods are going to have some small amount of fat, which comes from, it's oil basically. That's a macronutrient, fat, and oil is basically that macronutrient that's been taken from its original plant source. So in my mind, if you're sticking to a whole food plant-based diet, you're better off getting that fat from the whole plant food. It is important that you get fat. You need fat in the diet. But to, like you said, highly process that food to extract that oil and then take it in by itself instead of with its original product that has all the fiber and the nutrients, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And so, yeah, I agree with you that it's better to keep it either none or minimal than to try to take shots of it every morning. All right, let's do one more quick question. Let's see. Okay, this is from Susan again. Thank you, Susan, for answering the phones. Jody has a question. What fruits and veggies are you recommending to be able to get enough protein? Yeah, so I mean, I often think about legumes, beans, peas, lentils, tofu. Okay, first of all, let's just put this out there. All living things have protein. So all plants have protein. So you are getting amino acids in all of the plants that you eat. You're getting all of the essential amino acids, meaning the ones that you have to get through your diet. But different plants have different levels of those essential amino acids. So it's good to not just eat one food for the rest of your life, but to get, a good variety of different plant foods. But if you're looking at, eating things that have more protein than others, I would say the main things I think about are the legumes, making sure you're getting some kind of bean, pea, or lentil every day.
For sure. Yeah, I agree. Per weight, broccoli has an extremely high amount of protein per weight. You just have to eat a lot of broccoli for that to be your source of getting enough grams of protein a day. So eat a variety of foods, which will help make things interesting and delicious. But the easiest way to get your required protein is through that legume family. Some folks are like, oh, I can't eat beans, they give me so much gas. Oftentimes you hear start with lentils, which tend to be a little bit easier to digest than beans, and just start with a spoonful at a meal and see how that goes. And then tomorrow have 2 spoonfuls maybe, and if you need to work it up, and then your gut bugs will adjust, and we'll be able to handle it differently. I mean, gas is natural, but if you eat a serving of beans and you're not used to it and you're painfully bloating and stuff like that, then just back off and slowly build it up. But yeah, whole grains, another great source. Quinoa, for example, particularly high. But all whole grains have proteins in them, just like all the other stuff. Fruits probably the lowest amount of protein in general, but of course still recommend fruit. But vegetables, whole grains, nut seeds, and especially those legumes, and you're solid. You're there. You got it.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Pierce, for joining me today for another episode of what should we call it? Live Q&A with Dr. Pierce and Dr. Davis. Maybe we'll invite some other doctors sometime, but lately it's just been the two of us.
Just kidding. Yeah, no, that would be great. Yeah.
But we do have 6 doctors at Lifestyle Telemedicine. So if you want to see one of us, just go to lifestyletelemedicine.com. Yes, 6 doctors. We cover almost all 50 states. We're working on it. And also international. So, I have patients who are living out of the country who see me. So that's possible too. If you haven't seen one of us, you haven't seen a lifestyle medicine physician, boy, you are missing out. We are very supportive of your lifestyle. We help you with whatever goals you have. If you're sick of being on a bunch of medications, we can help you navigate that, how to safely get off medications as able, how to make that transition, and then not just dietary, but also other lifestyle changes, like helping with sleep and stress management and movement, social connectedness. There are so many other aspects of a healthy lifestyle that we can help with. So visit us at our website, down below, or you can even give us a call. You can talk to Susan. You can call her right now, 888-420-7284. We would absolutely love to hear from you. And thank you again, Dr. Pierce. Until next time, I'm Dr. Niki Davis with Lifestyle Telemedicine.